Hello, welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie and today I have a featured finished project video for you. This is the Spring Line Tee by Samantha Guerin. It is a newly released pattern. I have tested several patterns for Samantha in the past and the process is enjoyable and the outcome is fabulous. So I continue to test knit for Samantha when I can. For more details and thoughts on test knitting, if it is something that is new to you or something that you might be potentially interested in, or maybe you are a seasoned test knitter but just want to hear what somebody else's thoughts are on the process, I do have a video here on YouTube that talks about that, and I will link to it in one of the cards here on the screen and or in the description box below this video. So the Spring Line Tee. Let me pull up some information on it so I make sure I don't leave any important details out. Samantha does have her patterns up on Ravelry as well as on her website, so you can purchase her patterns on either platform. This tee is a drop shoulder sweater construction worked from the top down. What is really nice about that kind of construction is that you can try it on as you go, especially once you join the body in the round. Another thing I like about the drop shoulder design is that you can really customize the armhole depth from the beginning without doing a ton of extra math. I feel like when you are doing a round yoke construction where the increases are divided throughout, sometimes that can be a little bit tricky to get the right rate of increases for your body shape. And then also in raglan shaping yokes where you have the increases in 4 spots, that can be a little bit easier to adjust, I think, but sometimes maybe the ratio of how wide you want it compared to how deep you want it may be a little tricky as well. But with a drop shoulder construction, you could just make this armhole depth longer without significantly changing the width of the sweater. But to each their own, I'm learning new things as I go. This drop shoulder construction is something that is newer to me within this past year, and I've had a lot of fun exploring with it in different weights of garments. So with this sweater, you cast on the back section first, and you work all the shaping there, and then you put those stitches on hold, and you start picking up from the shoulders and work the front, right and left shoulders before you join in the round to create this beautiful scoop neckline. And then you work the front sections, and then once you get to a certain point where your armhole depth is where it should be, you join in the round and then you work the body all the way down. Now this does have beautiful lace paneling along both sides of the front as well as in the back. Hopefully you can see it in frame here. And something that I found so delightful is picking up to join the front and the back. You join right here in this lace paneling, and I love how it joins together. There's this beautiful little circle in the center of where the lace joins, and I just found my pickups to be neater and neater as I keep trying this method, and I just found it so seamless, really. I can hardly tell where I picked up. And I just find it so beautiful. That detail and just the precision in the pickup there, it is just delightful. And I know it's come with a lot of practice because my initial pickups on previous sweaters may not have been as tidy, but for this one it is very neat and tidy. The other thing is, I think it could be the yarn as well. This is a heathered yarn. It's very round. It's very soft and luxurious and drapey, and there's a beautiful halo to it. And I think it also lends itself well to pickups that don't have a lot of gaping, but that could also be due to the gauge of the fabric. So lots of different factors at play here, and I feel like I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I just wanted to point that out. I was talking about the construction, and then, oh yes, so then this neck band is picked up afterwards. And something that's really nice about that technique is that you have your cast on, which provides a little more structure, and then you don't, because the entire garment is weighing down on this neck band. But if you have a cast on stitches right there that you're picking up from. It just adds a little more stability. The other benefit to doing it this way is that if you want a wider or narrower neckband, you can pick up more or fewer stitches. And so that's something that's really something that you can try on as you knit it and just see how it feels to you. And so I just followed the pattern and did the recommended number of stitches. I think I did. And I used the recommended needle size. And so that worked out really well for me. The pattern, I think, does recommend a tubular bind off in all the places you would have bind offs. But for me personally, I like a regular bind off in pattern, and I just go up a couple needle sizes so it isn't too tight. And I find it to be a very tidy, straight edge instead of that rounded, curved, fold over look edge that a tubular bind off gives. And I'm perfectly fine with it this way. So that's what I prefer to do. Okay, so I talked about the neckband and then the sleeves. So I did modify this a little bit. In the pattern, when you pick up along here for the sleeves, you basically just knit a cuff. So it's more of a cap sleeve or really short sleeve type of look. And then for me, because I used a warmer fiber yarn, which I haven't talked about yet, but I will get to, I knew that it was going to be a more versatile garment for me if I knit elbow length sleeves because, again, it's a warmer fiber. I'm going to be wearing this when it's slightly cooler compared to perhaps summer. And so if it was going to be really short, then it would be just only kind of warm and then my arms would be cold and it just wouldn't really be as wearable for me. So I wanted longer sleeves. So I still picked up for the number of stitches called for my size, except I picked up using the main body needles instead of the ribbing needles. And then so I just knit even all the way until I got to just a little shorter than where my elbow would bend. And I did a round with some decreases. I think I wanted it to decrease by a couple of inches. And so there's a knitting calculator. That's a web tool that you can use. You can put in how many stitches you want less and it will help you figure out how to space your decreases evenly. I will link to that also in the description box below this video. It is a very helpful tool. So then I decreased to what I wanted and then I switched to the ribbing needles and knit the ribbing and then bound off. And so it has a slight puff to it, which I just think is so lovely and adds to the whimsical romantic nature of this garment. And yeah, I think that is it for the modification. Oh, I did lengthen the body. I thought I lengthened it by one lace repeat, but it could have been two now that I'm thinking about it. I'm not for sure. But I wanted it to be slightly longer. The pattern has it, I think, kind of high hip length, but I wanted it slightly longer. I'm going to stand up here so that it could be easily worn with jeans. And then when I raise my arm, it's not coming up too high. And so these jeans go right up, covering my belly button, and the sweater goes a few inches past that. So I think if it was knit to the length of the pattern, it probably would just cover maybe the top of my high-waisted jeans, but I just wanted it slightly longer, and it is something that can be easily tucked in the front if I wanted to. I can tuck it into a skirt that's a high-waisted skirt, or wear it over a dress and then wear a belt inside if I wanted it to be tucked in the front. But yeah, this is a length that I wanted so that it would be a little more wearable with different things versus slightly shorter where I feel like I would be a little more limited as to what I'm comfortable wearing it with. Depending on the yarn you use, your lace holes may be a little smaller or bigger. So if you chose a yarn that bloomed really fluffily, bigger, I don't know, expanded more, then the holes in the lace might not be as big. So you may be comfortable wearing it with or without something underneath, regardless of how big the holes are, just to your own comfort level. My yarn really bloomed nicely, but I would say the lace holes are, I don't know, kind of bigger. And so I feel more comfortable wearing it with something underneath. So if I'm wearing a sleeveless dress underneath, that's a perfect thing that I can top this over. Or right now I have a camisole underneath and I just have it in like a dusty blue color. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but then it doesn't like stick out through the holes like if I was wearing like a hot pink camisole or something, which if that's the look you're going for, you can totally do that too. If you don't want to wear a camisole underneath, you don't have to. It really is based on whatever you want. Okay, so I've talked about the construction. I've talked about a little bit about like how I like to wear it. Now I feel like I usually go through these other numbers first, but I just got carried away. So we'll talk about the numbers now. The pattern comes in 10 sizes. for a finished circumference in the chest area of 32 inches up to 67.75 inches. Recommended ease is 2 to 6 inches, and I chose size 2, which gives me about 4-ish inches of positive ease. And I like that one because it also means I have a little bit of positive ease in my hips, about 1.5 inches there. And so I don't have to worry about it being like 0 ease or negative ease at my hips. And I find 4 to 6 inches a really comfortable positive ease range for my garments. So that is what I picked. And the needle size, I used the recommended needle size for the main fabric, which is a US 4 or 3.5 millimeter. The ribbing for the hem uses a US 3, 3.25 millimeter. Neckband and sleeve ribbing uses a US 2 or 2.75 millimeter. And I did use those. The only thing I added was a US 5 double pointed needle to bind off my hem ribbing, just to make sure it wasn't going to be too tight. The recommended yarn in the sample is North Bay Fiber Elemental Fingering, which is 100% Cormo wool, non-superwash, and it comes in 465 yards for 100 grams. And from the pictures, it just looks beautiful. There's a nice texture to it. The lace really pops. It just looks like a beautiful yarn. The yarn I used is by Pearl Soho. It is the quartz base. And this yarn comes in 420 yards for 100 grams. The colorway I used is Hydrangea Blossom. And this is a 65% merino wool, 35% Surrey alpaca. It is also not superwash. It is so beautiful. It is heathered. There is a beautiful halo to it. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit closer, but hopefully it'll still focus okay. But there is a beautiful halo on it. It is so soft and drapey. Something really cool about this yarn is because it's merino and Surrey alpaca, but it's fingering weight yarn, so you don't have to like hold it double. You know how a lot of fuzzy garments have you hold like a lace weight Surrey or a lace weight mohair plus something else? Well, this one has it combined and it's still fingering weight, so you don't have to necessarily go up in the weight of the yarn you're using. It's like all together. So I really love this yarn. This is the first time I think I'm making a garment with it. I've made a wrap, I've made hats, and I think that's it. But I really wanted to see how it would behave in a garment, and I'm so pleased. Now, I will say, if you want something that's a little more structured, I would probably not choose this yarn. This would not be a good fit. But for something that's drapey, I think it just really lends itself to creating that luxurious fabric. And I think with my slightly puffy sleeves, it also just gives it a really nice puff without the structure of a puff, like a drapey puff maybe. I think one more thing I wanted to mention in the pattern is for the lace. If you prefer working from a chart is provided. If you prefer written instructions, that is also provided. I really like that about Samantha's patterns. I feel like she's pretty consistent about providing these two options because everybody processes information differently and something might work better for one person than another. Some people find the lace to be intuitive after a while and they don't even have to reference the chart. I will say to you, honestly, for me being a non-lace knitter, I did keep the pattern close by all the time. And I did mark off each lace repeat section with a light bulb stitch marker. And part of that is I am not very good at fixing lace. So if there's a problem, I generally just have to rip it all back and start over. And I was not wanting to do that. Another tip for you is if you're not a super confident lace knitter or just feel like you need that extra little, I don't know what you would call it. I can't think of the word right now, but use lifelines. So basically you can just thread a thin yarn throughout your last round that you felt confident in, and then just keep knitting from there using your regular yarn. And so if you do mess up, you can just rip all the way back to that lifeline, stick your needle back through, and just start again from there without ripping everything back. I did not end up using any lifelines here, I don't think, because I felt pretty good about it. The lace repeat wasn't super long, and I just, like I said, I was pretty diligent about looking at the pattern with each one. Like each time I came to the lace repeat just to make sure I had it where I wanted it. And I did not end up having any issues. It was very clearly written and it was easy to follow. And me as a non-lace knitter, and I should clarify what that means. I don't gravitate generally towards patterns that have lace all over the place because I love the look of it, but I can't say I enjoy the stress of knitting it because I'm so worried that something's gonna go wrong. I have much less trepidation for color work. I feel like color work I can fix pretty easily, but yeah, lace, just have a harder time fixing if I have to fix it. But I'm so pleased with how this turned out. I'm so pleased with how it fits. This scoop neckline is really nice. I really like how it sits right below my collarbone. It is not too deep. It is not so shallow that it's choking me. It is just so comfortable. I think that is everything that I have to share about this pattern for you. I hope that you give it a try if it is something that is interesting to you, and that if you do give it a try, that you enjoy knitting it as much as I did. With that, take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.